here I have a button and I have a door. When I click the button, I want the door to open. So the first thing I'm going to do is just make this button go up and down when you click it. So if we come into my button, you can see I've got several different static meshes, the ring, the middle and the top. And I've added a box collider by coming up here and typing collider, and you can do box collision. And basically that just means that this will be the area that activates the button rather than having to do it on each of these different meshes. So if I come down here on the right and I do this on clicked, then I've now got an event that fires when I click on my button. So to make it go up and down, I'm just setting the transform of both of those, the middle and the top dome, to kind of go down. So this one will make it go down, and this one will make it go back up. And I'm going to use a flip-flop because I want it to flip-flop between those two things. So I want, when you click the button once, it goes down. When you click it again, it goes back up. So if I pipe this in, so that'll make it go down. That will make it go back up. So let's just test that. And the button goes down, button goes up, but obviously it doesn't do anything yet. So what you would normally do is we want this button to target the door and to tell the door to open. So I'll come back into my button and I will make a variable which is going to be the target object. So if I rename this target object, and I want that to be type of an actor because the door is an actor, and that's going to be an object reference. So now what I can do is drag that in, and I can, after the button has gone down, I want to target that door and I want it to activate. So let me just save and compile. And now I will come into my door. Now I'm going to set up two more events in here. So custom event. And this one I'm going to call open door. And then I'm going to make another one for closed door. Okay, so when I open the door, it's going to set the rotation of the door to be open. When I close the door, it's going to set it back again. Okay, save and compile that. So now that I set up the actor that I want to activate, I can come over here and in my button tutorial, okay, so you need to make sure that your target object is visible to public. So I'm going to tick this little I, compile and save that. And now there we go, I've got target object inside my button. So I can click this eyedropper and pick on my door. So now my button knows that that is the door that it wants to activate. So how do I get the door to open? So on clicked, we can leave all this. So after I have set the button to go down, I want to use my target object. So I'll drag that back in. So target object, I'm going to get that. Now, if I drag off here, you think I can do open door, but it doesn't come up, right? Because it doesn't know the type of object that I'm trying to use. So traditionally you would come off here, I would go cast to tutorial door. And now that I've done that and I've piped this in here, I can find open door. Okay, so that's great. So I'll do open door and then I'll do the same thing here. Pipe my target object in there, and then this time I will do close door. Now if I compile and save this, okay, I need the target in there. Now my door should open and close. Okay, open and close, lovely. So that's all good. You might think that's the way to do it, but what happens if you have a different type of object? So I've got this flagpole that I've prepared here. So if I just rotate this. Now you think, okay, I'll click the button and I will instead click the flagpole. Now if I go into my flagpole, this has got different events. So this is flag up, flag down. Now in my button, none of this is now going to work because I'm casting to tutorial door, and obviously it's not a door, it's a flagpole. So I can come up here and instead cast to tutorial flagpole, and then instead of open door I can do flag up, you know, and I could do the same thing for flag down. We don't need to do that right now. So if I compile and save that, put the target in. Now that our button has the BP flagpole in there, if I click on the button, the flag goes up and I could make it go down the same way as the door. But obviously our button now, you can only use one type of object. So you can do a cast fail. So I could go, okay, cast to flagpole. If it fails, then cast to door instead. I don't even know if I can do that. Hang on. Yeah, so I could check if it's a flagpole, check if it's a door. But then what if you had 5 different types of objects? I'd have to check it's flagpole, door, button, switch, ball, whatever I was casting to. So there's a much better way to do this. So that's where blueprint interfaces come in. So what I'm going to do, a blueprint interface basically tells any object that you've created, it basically sets events that you can fire on that object. And the advantage of that is that you don't have to do this cast. You can just look for the object, and provided that object has the blueprint interface, then you can activate or deactivate. So I'll right click and I will go blueprints, blueprint interface, and I'll just call that BPI activate. Now, if I come into this interface and I can add functions. So I'll add a function called activate, and I'll add another function and I'll call this deactivate. Now what that means is that any object I attach this blueprint class to, I'll be able to activate and deactivate. So I need to come into my door tutorial first, and I will go to class settings. And now what I'm going to do is add that interface. So down here under interfaces, I can click add, and BPI activate is the one I just made. So that's it. So now this door has that blueprint interface on it, and I will do the same for the flagpole. Activate. Okay, so now these two objects have the ability to use the activate and deactivate event. So rather than the events that I've got here, flag up and flag down, let's do the door first, or open door, closed door. I'm going to delete those, and you can see interfaces has popped up here. So I have activate and deactivate. So if I right click activate, implement event, I've essentially now I'm using that blueprint interface event instead of making a custom one in here. So I'll do the same for deactivate. Now if I pipe activate, so exactly the same as we had before, save that, and now in the flagpole, rather than flag up, flag down, I'll do the same thing. So again, because I put the blueprint interface on it, I can now implement these events. And I can say activate and deactivate. So now on my button, I can pick the door, and if I run that, nothing happens. Okay, because I haven't actually set it up yet. Right. So on clicked, before we had the whole cast and all that stuff. So now, rather than that, we can just use the interface. So we can say, get our target object. And now what you have to do is say, does implement interface. Okay, so you need to check that that door has the interface on it. So does implement interface, and the interface is BPI activate. And I'm going to create a branch just to check that it does indeed implement that interface. So if that is true, if it does implement the interface, then I want to do activate. So you can see it comes up, it tells you here what blueprint class it's using, and I can pick activate message here. Right, so now that has activate. So I can do the same for deactivate. Oh, so I need to first bring my target back in. Actually, let's just use this one. So now we're going to check that again. So I need another branch. And on deactivate, if it does implement the interface, then I can deactivate. So now that we've done that, if I compile and save, oh, I need my target again. So now if I run it, the door activates and doesn't deactivate. Why is that? Okay, so I didn't pick BPI activate. Okay, so they're all wired up, right? Activate, deactivate. But the advantage of this is now, because they both have those same events, so they both have activate and deactivate because we set it up in the blueprint interface. Now I can just, instead of my door, click my flag. Flag goes up, flag goes down. So the whole advantage is that you can create any number of objects, and I can just, create multiple of these. And as long as I pick, as long as it has the interface, I can pick whichever one I want, and it will activate and deactivate. All right, that's it. I hope that's explained it a bit easier. There's a lot of blueprint interface tutorials that are pretty complicated, but it's really not that difficult. So it was just a case of creating a blueprint interface, adding the events that you want to be able to fire, activate, deactivate, and then making sure that we implemented those interfaces inside the actor, and then that's it. So that was blueprint interfaces. I hope that's made it simpler for people. If you found that useful, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Thanks a lot.